questions? Oh, I said that live, didn't I? Why, hi there. I'm Ron Juckett, and welcome to the next episode of the Ron Juckett Show. And yes, if you think we've had Dave Gardner on before, you are right. But tonight, our topic is very specific. We're going to talk today, the 20th anniversary of the Eastern Massachusetts Roller Hockey League was celebrated at Hockeytown in Saugus, Massachusetts. And my guest tonight, who does not believe in capitalization with his own name, is none other than Dave Gardner, who is the commissioner, founder, chief bottle washer, and creator of the Eastern Massachusetts Roller Hockey League, which he started when he was only 2 years old, started at 32. So congratulations on 20 years of running anything. Most 90% of most businesses fail within the first year.
Yeah. Thanks, Ron. Today was kind of a special day. We had our 20th skate. It was kind of a low key event. Didn't know what to expect. 5 years ago, we had the 15th anniversary, and that was a big deal. We had the court for the whole day. We went outside. We had a cookout. We had players that hadn't been with us in 5 or 10 years show up and hang out. Some skated and the whole bit, and it was a big to do. It really was. This time here was just kind of a lower key thing. A lot of people were away. It was just I don't know what happened on September 28th, but a lot of people just weren't around. But we still had a decent crowd show up. We had some guys that were original members from 1999 show up. Some actually played, some still play. And we had some guys that hadn't played in a few years come by. And we said goodbye to a couple of people, too, today who were going to be moving out of state and the whole bit.
Oh, so a melancholy day. Someone thinks that's a Caps logo. Go get your T-shirt for a second so people can see it. No, so you can get in the camera. Yeah, no, that's the 20th. And who made that for you?
That was a person by the name of Brian Estrella, who was in our league. I put out the bat symbol. We got a lot of really good graphic design people in the league. And the 15th anniversary was designed by Kyle Jenkins, who was in the league, but he said he wasn't doing it anymore. I was like, Kyle, you did such a good job in the 15th. He's like, I'm not doing that. So Brian sat down and I said, we need something that's going to say 20th year of the league. And so we put together the 2 X's with the hockey sticks on there, with the league logo in there, with the ribbons, and it was nice and simple and clean and looks good. And we just got all the merchandise in today. That's why I'm wearing this all today. So I got my hat, I got my shirt here, I got a shirt behind me.
It looks good. I hadn't seen any of that yet. Now, when I first saw the hat, I was wondering why you were wearing Washington Redskins stuff, because it's the same color burgundy. It's like, okay, you're not Joe Gibbs, but it's a nice thing. All right. So I guess the first question before we actually get into the league itself, I'm not sure if when you and I chatted before like this, if we ever actually talked about your hockey background. So let's start with, obviously you're a Bruin. How did you become a Bruins fan?
Probably from my dad growing up here in Massachusetts in the very early 70s. I was able to, he played a lot of hockey, watched a lot of hockey. We played in the living room, and I was lucky enough to grow up it was a split family house, and it had a long driveway. I mean, it was, you could probably put 10 or 12 cars in this driveway, and on each side was a fence. So we had boards on each side of this long driveway, and you could put nets up and play. But the thing was, there was no boards behind the net. So if you missed the net, you had to chase it. But we had ourselves basically a hockey rink. And back in 71, 72, 73, there wasn't a lot of cars. So
no,
I think each person had one car in the family. So that driveway was ours all the time. And I go by there now, and the driveway is packed with probably 15 cars, and there's no way you could play anymore.
So good size rink.
It's sad. Yeah. When I went, because, you'd have like them next to each other going all the way down, and you couldn't play. There wouldn't be any room to play at that point. But we had the whole driveway. So we played a ton of street hockey back in the day. And of course, that was the Bobby Orr era, the tail end of it, caught that. And just that was the beginning of it. And that seed was planted, and just been a hockey fan ever since.
And for those of you who are not from New England, the Bruins hooked up with what turned out to be an early superstation, WSBK TV 38 out of Boston. And so I don't think they were doing every game, but they were doing a fair amount of home games and pretty much all the road games. So there was a lot of Bruins hockey on television for you to watch in that era too.
There was, yeah. And in fact, NBC had the game of the week. So on Saturday afternoon, it was either Saturday or Sunday afternoons, you could turn on and watch, the Blackhawks and the Rangers or whoever it was. And, there was a lot of hockey on TV back then, And I remember, too, that, there was no video games at that point in the early to mid 70s, at least, there might have been Pong or something. But so how we would play, we either had the rod hockey games, okay? So you'd play rod hockey, or what I ended up doing is that, when my mother made me these hockey cakes, I had the little hockey figures on top of the cake. And when we got done celebrating birthdays, I would wash off the figures and I would play on the table with these little hockey guys. So tabletop gaming, I guess you could call it. The original tabletop gaming. And it got to a point where she had my grandfather make me this little table. And it sat about yay high off the ground, so you could sit on the ground and put your legs under it. And it was just a big rectangle of a piece of plywood that he cut, and he put little boards around it, and he put all the hockey lines. And we nailed the nets down, and I had my own hockey rink to play with these guys. And I played hours and hours and hours with that thing. And so that was my first tabletop hockey experience. So it was some good times back in the day.
I'm sure.
And I remember, growing up we moved across town in the 80s, and I hooked up with some friends, and I was able to, ride my bicycle with a hockey stick and go across town and play some street hockey games. We had a couple people lived on some back roads, and so there wasn't a lot of traffic, and we play every day after school. I mean, the bus would drop you off, you get on your bike, you grab your stick, and you drive a couple miles on your bike and go play hockey. And in fact, the guy that kind of started the get-togethers that turned out to be the league is a guy named Jay Frazier. And that's what the cup's named after. It's the Jay Frazier Cup.
Oh, nice.
And we would play street hockey in front of his house every day. And then it was after high school, a few years later, that he called me up and said, "Hey, let's start playing some roller hockey. I got some rollerblades. Let's go play in a tennis court."
We'll get to that.
And that's how it all started. Yeah,
okay.
So that was, I've been playing hockey. And now I never played any high level hockey. Okay, I always was just playing in the street hockey on the ponds. I did play goalie for the junior varsity team, and I was back.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to.
Yeah.
But first, it was that NBC era in the mid 70s that my mother watched one of the Flyers games and pretty much told me I'm never watching that again because they fought too much. And so I did not get the hockey exposure growing up in
you were sheltered from that. Wow, I
was sheltered. I mean, my mother would joke for years that if you can get hurt watching it, Ron loves it, which was only partially true. But anyway, hockey was just too violent for her. And so NBC had a love affair with the Flyers, I guess. And that was, we didn't live in Northern Vermont. There was no CBC at that point. And so no, you're not.
Well, that would not be the team to showcase if you're trying to show hockey.
Also a 3 or 4 year old kid. While you were playing
Flyers mid 70s was brutal.
Right. While you were playing street hockey, I was filling diapers. So anyway, so you played after, you did what a lot of kids in New England did. You play, or in that part of New England, you went home after school, you played street hockey. Everybody, car or driveway or whatever, and you move the goals like that scene in Wayne's World when they're playing on the street.
That's exactly
very much like Ontario and Quebec in that respect. So you were goal. When did you learn to actually skate on the ice?
I played a little bit when I was 7 or 8, but we didn't have any money for me to keep playing. So I think I played one season, a handful of games, enjoyed it, but we just couldn't keep it going. So I stopped skating until probably 13 or 14 when we moved across town, and there was a couple of ponds to skate on. And so I was able to ride my bike down to the pond and skate. And then we started renting ice at the local arenas and started playing on real hockey rinks. And then we needed a goalie. And so
is that what possessed you to become a goalie?
We needed one, yeah. So I rustled up some gear, and I bought used equipment from all my buddies there, and sometimes I made my own pads, put them on, and somehow, some way, I got good enough. I made the JV team in high school. I was really not that good back in the day. Got on the varsity team, played a couple of games, and then after that, I just played pickup hockey after
You
that.
actually had enough players on your squad to actually have a JV team?
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, we had a lot of guys in a JV team. Yeah, we had a lot of hockey players.
Is that still the case? Is high school hockey healthy in Massachusetts?
I don't know. I know that junior hockey has come in now, and a lot of the players from certain cities go play in these junior teams or these showcase teams, and so the high schools get decimated now.
Yeah. When I was in high school, it was a club sport. It wasn't a varsity sport. Now it is, but that just shows you, in Vermont anyway, that it just was not until John LeClaire, St. Albans and UVM, and won a cup that I had the highlights on VHS for Montreal. All right, so you were supposed to smile at that. I gave you your own damn joke. So Jay Frazier, and so you turned to street hockey, and so about roughly what time frame did you learn to lace the skates on the tennis court?
Oh boy, I was playing roller hockey in the mid '90s. Okay, I was playing both ice and roller. And at that point there, I think I stopped playing goalie. I started skating out in the mid '90s. It was my stepbrother Dave Belial, who was on our show this summer. Dave Belial,
right? The Eastern Massachusetts Roller Hockey League. This week in the EMRHL.
This week in the E. And he actually called me up one day and said, "Hey, I'm going to sign up for this ice hockey clinic, and then you play games and you learn how to do ice hockey." And I was like, I haven't done ice hockey in a while since I played goalie, but I never skated out. So I started skating out. And I had some fun with that. And then we did roller hockey and ice hockey back and forth. And then it was one Sunday, I want to say it was 96 or 97, that Jay Frazier found me in the phone book. There was no cell phones back then. And he called me up and said, "Hey, we're going to go down to the school here and play on the tennis courts and roller hockey. It's Sunday morning." And of course, the first week I slept in and didn't go. I just blew it off, basically. I was like, "Yeah, I just want to sleep in." And he called me back the next week. So, "You're going to show up this week?" I said, "All right, I'll show up." So I grabbed the rollerblades and we went down and we had fun. We had a great time. And we used a tennis ball and we didn't have any boards really. I think, if the ball went off into the grass, we had to go chase it, just like the old days. And we had a lot of fun. I remember I played goalie too. We didn't even have a mask. A guy took a shot, hit me square in the forehead too. I was like, "What are you doing?" So we played there for about a year. I mean, while the weather was good. And I said, there's a place in the next town over that's all boarded in, and it has chain link fence, and they have these nets. It's a tennis court / basketball court, but they have actual hockey nets. And I don't think anybody uses it on Sunday morning. And so we said, "Well, we'll try it." So we went over and started playing. I'll get to that one second.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So we started playing at this court in Beverly, and it just, there was nobody there. Let's play. So we showed up every week. Next thing you know, we started collecting dues from everybody, a couple bucks a week, and we were able to buy street hockey balls. We actually got uniforms. We had just black and orange uniforms. And so we had teams that would set up, and next thing you know, people would drive by and stop in, and that just grew and grew and grew. And we did that. I want to say we did that for 97 and 98. And then when we started up in 99,
the first year of the league then, right?
Yeah, we started up in 99, like March, April, and somebody said, "We need to get a league going." Okay. And so I went home that night and I took out a pad and paper and I sketched out all my ideas. And I went down to it was actually a youth center. So I went down to the youth center and I pitched the idea to the girl. And she's like, "I think that would be great." And so we started, there was really not a lot of internet then. So we started hanging up flyers and word of mouth. And the following Wednesday, we had enough for 4 teams. It was like perfect. 4 goalies and just enough guys for 4 teams. And we started playing, put together a schedule, and we started playing. And I think I did put up a website back then, but it was very, very basic. And I don't even have any of the stats from back then because computers just weren't the big thing back in 98, 99, I mean, we had them, but they're not like they are today. And there was, the cell phones weren't quite there either. And we just started to play in 1999. And
what possessed you to want to organize something like that? Were there other roller hockey leagues around? I'll put up Kenny Castro. I'll let you answer Kenny Castro's question.
Hockey. I did not play in Hockey America. I had a friend of mine that played down in New Jersey, and he played in that. And I think that's the one that he said that he would drive 2 hours to go play an ice hockey game. And he said he would go from Philadelphia to New Jersey and show up, and the game was canceled. And nobody told him.
Oh.
And I think that was a league you had to buy all matching gear, matching pants, matching gloves, matching helmet. I mean, he said it was a very expensive league to play in. But I never did play in Hockey America. I played in some local leagues here. So, but
when you started the league, whatever possessed you to say, "Gosh, what a great idea this is"? Let's start with that one. What possessed you to do this?
Probably because I've always been an organizer.
Okay.
Even as a kid, when we moved across town the first time, we were right across the street from a baseball park, like right across the street. So I would go over and we'd play baseball and soccer, and I just would just organize. That's just what I did. I mean, it was fun playing, but it was better when it was organized. And that's one thing that you hear, Bobby Orr and all these people say nowadays is kids can't go out and be kids anymore because they're always playing organized sports.
Exactly.
And we did play Little League, and there was hockey leagues available. But I mean, I was organizing the things at the ballpark, and getting the teams together. And I would go and, use my birthday money, and I bought bases so we could put actual bases on the field to play, because there weren't any bases on the field. So I would buy the bases and bring them and put them down. And so I always had this organization thing about me. And I always tried to make things better, whether I did or not all the time, I don't know. But I always, I would, even if I played in a couple of fantasy football leagues, and I'd play for a year or two and I'd say, how about this idea? What if we had a playoff system at the end, and that would make it more fun? And so, things like that. And I would just always tweak, and I'm doing that with the cards and dice games. I would play a game and I sit and I think, what would make this better? And so I when I started this league, we organized it. I'm telling you, it just all came together. Because that first Wednesday, if we had 2 goalies, right, or if we had 7 goalies and not enough players, it might have never ever got off the ground. It might have ended that night.
Was there at the time like a national organization? Was there something you could pull rules from? What guidance did you have? Obviously, your own experiences in organizing Little League things, and of course, just as a sidebar here, the entry level for ice hockey for poor kids was pretty much impossible because you had parents not only had to buy all the equipment, but the ice time was very expensive. Even in an area like Metro Boston, which is overflowing with rinks compared to the rest of the country, it still wasn't cheap. So, okay, so I guess answer back to the question was there a guidebook? Was there a national organization? When you pulled this together, did you at least have some help from an administrative side from something?
I had been working with the Friday Morning Ice Hockey League, the Blades and Breakfast League, for a year. They started in February of '98, and I was on board with them. And they ran
right from day one, right?
Right from day one. Yeah, I remember them. We had the meeting at a pizza spaghetti place on Route 1, and they said, it's 6:30 every Friday. Can you get up in time? And I've been there at 6:30 every Friday for 21 years now. So I guess I could make it. But I used their example of how they drafted, because I'd never seen a draft league before. You always put in your team. So they drafted the team. Boy, that's a really good idea. And then, how they did certain things in that league, that was a big part of what I did. But because it was roller hockey and we had a different rink and a smaller rink, we had to make a lot of house rules. And so I drafted up a whole bunch of rules I thought would work well, and some didn't.
This is the tennis basketball court.
This is the tennis basketball court. Yeah, and we were outside. And I got to say that, so as far as where I drew the rules from, that hockey league was a big part of it. I had played in other roller hockey leagues. And what I did is I started to pick and choose all the things I think would make a great league to play in. That's how I come up with all the rules and all the guidelines for my league. So, and some were very bizarre, but I thought it would make a better game, a better league.
Was body painting involved? I have to ask.
No, No, it wasn't. But I got to say that first year we got so lucky with weather. I don't think we had one cancellation in 1999.
And you'd have needed to with rain. Obviously, you could not have played with.
No,
Or
you
could
can't play in any rain at all. The only issue we had one time is I think we tried to do a skills competition, and we got a little drizzle that night. But every Wednesday for that first year, we had really good weather, and just everything fell into place, and the league grew. And
Do you have lights, or was it all daytime?
no, they did have lights. So we played at night. I think the first game was 6 or 6:30. It was really early, and then we just played 2 games back to back. And we made our own scoreboard. We took a big piece of plywood, we cut it in half, so we had a 4x4 piece of plywood. We painted white, okay. And what we did is we took these little certificate holders you could buy at Staples or something like that, and you would just press it on a piece of wood and slide the certificate in, if you can follow that. So
Yep.
we took these little plastics. They were clear, but they were certificate holders, and we put 4 of them or 5 of them on this big white board, and we would slide in the scores. So we printed out like a big 0 or big 1 and just slid it in, and everything was manual. Okay, we didn't have a scoreboard the first year. Everything was done manually on this thing. We just leaned it against one of the trucks, and we did it. And because it was outside and we played at night and it was next to a parking lot, the cars would pull up and they would face us, and the lights would come right into the rink, and we'd have to say, "Turn off the lights. We can't see anything." And so yeah, then there was that's how the first year went. The first year was trial and error. We had a really good time in the first year. And thanks, Ken. Yeah, it's it just everything fell into place, and just everyone bought into what we were doing. And I just kept going. And that first year, I spent a lot of my own money that first year, on little things.
And you were working for a trophy company, right? Isn't that
at the time? Yeah, I was working for a trophy company. I started with a friend of mine, and then he actually sold it to somebody else. So I was not part owner anymore. I was just an employee. And so I was able to get trophies and awards and even jerseys fairly cheap because I got them through work. And so that helped a lot, being able to get the jerseys, at cost. And they were just blank jerseys. We didn't have a logo on it. I just put a single color number on the back. So everything was done really on the cheap, and we didn't make enough money from the dues to pay for it. So I was paying a lot out of my own pocket that first year.
So how does a spouse help with something like that? Because you've been married for a long time, and we all get into projects which cost money of some sort. I mean, how did you explain that to her? What do we need to spend the $200 for? I gotta buy jerseys for my league. I'm sure, not to get too personal, but that went over really well.
It did. We didn't get into any big money like that the first year. I tried to collect enough to pay for some of that, but there was little things I would have to buy out of pocket. But it did strain the relationship. We almost separated because I spent so much time, because I was working full time,
right?
And I spent all this time with the league, and she's just like, "Well, why should we be together? I never see you because you're too busy."
And I don't want to make a big point out of that, but that is not uncommon for anyone who does any sort of sports or touring or that.
Well, even, when you look at plumbers and electricians and people like that, they always seem to be divorced. And it's because they have to work so many hours as a self-employed person to make it work. That strains the relationship. And it's difficult when one person's not there and they're always working, and they're like, "Look, I have to do this."
Exactly.
And so, in my case, I wasn't making a lot of money because it was, I was actually paying out of pocket. But I can see how plumbers and electricians and people who have trades that make a lot of money, and at first it's great, but then at some point, the woman's like, "Well, this money's great, but I never see you," and it's not,
Where are you at 2 a.m?
Yeah, so you got to have some sympathy for these people that are working crazy hours, and
oh, absolutely. If it wasn't for the fact. We'll get to that, Ken, once we start talking about the more happy stuff. When I was doing the sports writing thing, I don't know what I would have done if my wife hadn't worked second shift.
Yeah.
Because she's worked second shift for 1,000 years. And when you work in the entertainment business, whether you're a league like yourself or writing about a professional team or whatever, your hours are when they're busy.
Yeah.
And that's at night.
Yeah.
Or on the weekends.
Yep.
Every weekend.
And it was just, we only did the once a week or twice a week thing, but it was not only was it work, but it was exciting for me, because I was like, wow,
it's such a thrill.
It was like something I created is getting off the ground. And then I had this issue here, and now we can look back and say, wow, she thought it was, I think at the time she thought it was just like a hobby for me.
Right.
Because like I said, there was no money coming in, and I was spending a lot of time, and every waking hour I was talking about the league because it was growing and growing, and that created a lot of stress in the house. But now we look back and it's like, well, we got through that, and I stuck with it, and now it's, I was able to quit the trophy shop and do the hockey league thing, not just this league, but also the ice league, the play-by-play, and I have like 6 or 7 jobs I do during the week.
Right.
And but the roller hockey is the biggest one, and that's the one that I stuck with it, and it turned out that here we are 20 years later.
All right. So 19 of those years have been with Hockey Town in Saugus. How did you play some breakfast there from day one? Is that how you got to that connection?
So we finished 1999, and we were all excited. We couldn't wait to start second year 2000 outside. Okay, so we tried to start in March because we were so excited to play. We started having meetings in January and February, and we actually had the teams all picked well before the season started. You don't try to do anything in mid-March in Massachusetts. You just don't, especially now. It seems like it's worse now, but
you couldn't do anything up here until mid-May. It's just
opening day, March of 2000, we got a foot of snow. And so we got postponed a couple of weeks. Then we tried to play late March, early April, and it was so cold because we played right next to a little river, okay? And the wind coming off that, we froze. It was really, really tough to play. So we were so excited to play because we had started in May of 99. So we tried to move it up to March. No, that didn't work. So we said, if we ever do this again, we're going to wait till at least mid-April to start this. So that's how it happened. But one thing happened in 1999 that I still don't know how it happened is we were playing, and it was on a tennis court, okay? And it's all the tennis lines. So we just used the back line for the goal line, and that's the only line we really had. And we had played 2 or 3 weeks, and I got a phone call from somebody that said, "Get down to the court and look what they did. They put down a hockey rink." And to this day, I don't know who or how or why they did this, because it was a tennis court, and a basketball court. Now we were playing down there once or twice a week, and I went down there, and somebody had painted the entire court as a hockey rink. They put down, I think it was like a maroon floor with all the lines and the creases and the face-off circles. And to this day, I don't know how that happened or who did it, because nobody told me until I got a call and said, "I went by the rink and you ain't going to believe this." And that was early in 1999. And I still to this day don't know how that came about.
Is it still a hockey rink?
Ironically, well, let me finish what happened here in 2000.
Okay.
So flash forward. So 2000, we ended up playing all of 2000 outside, and we didn't have as good luck with the weather that year. In fact, we get into October and it started to get cold. And in fact, the wife was doing a scorekeeping for me, and we would pull the truck up next to the court, run a long wire into the truck, because we had actually bought a scoreboard at the time. Okay, well, I bought a scoreboard. Well, truth be told, some guys chipped in, but I bought a scoreboard, and we had to run the wire into the truck so she could sit in the truck and run the heat because it was so cold in late October. And we kept getting rained out, and it was getting colder and colder and colder. So finally I said, "Look, I'm making the call. If we don't play next Wednesday, we're going to play Thursday. If we don't play Thursday, we're going to go inside the Hockey Town on Saturday and finish the season, because we need to get the finals done. And the weather's not cooperating." And so I think we did finally play on that Thursday night. We finished the season, and we went up there Saturday and played anyway. And I was like, wow, we're inside. There's no rain. There's no threat of canceling because it's raining, and there's lights, and, and so we never went back to the the youth center after that final game in October of 2000. And in fact, the girl that was running it, she left, and I got a call in 2001 from the guy that was running it. And he said something like, okay, we need to know when you're going to start, when you're going to finish, how many people you're going to have, what you're going to charge, and how much money we're going to make. And I said, 0, when ain't coming back. And I thought about maybe going back because we had so much fun there, but that attitude really turned me off. And I was like, no, we'll stay where we are. So in the fall of 2000, we started the Saturday morning league up in Hockeytown. So we played the first, call it year and a half outside, if you technically, from May of 99 to October of 2000, about a year and a half. And then we went upstairs at the rink upstairs at Hockeytown, and we've been there ever since. And I think we played 6 months on Saturday, and things were going, and we were growing and expanding, and we ended up starting a Tuesday night league in spring of 2001. And so we still have both leagues going, Saturday and Tuesday. Still have them both going.
That's remarkable. So you've essentially run 2 leagues for 18 years. And so that's a nice dovetail into this question. Is it you?
I don't know, because we have a really good, we ended up going back in the last 2.5 years. It took 2.5 years. We backloaded all the stats that I have that go back to the first game at Hockeytown in fall 2001.
So you've everything from inside is recorded.
Yeah, I don't have anything from outside. I have a couple of team stats and a couple of scores, but I don't have exact stats of who did what back in the day. I could guess. I could try to. I still might go back someday and poke around, but I have pretty accurate stats from the first game in Hockeytown all the way through today. So I can go back and look at all my stats. The only thing is you can't compare who has the most points. You'd have to click on each individual play. So you could see how many points I have. You can see how many points this guy has, but you can't click and say who's the leading scorer. I could say that it might be me just because of volume, not so much skill, but for someone that's been there for 20 years, that's a lot, a lot of accumulated, a lot of stats. And Tony says, I used to play street deck hockey up there. Yep. They still have that. It's not as big as it used to be, but
two of you together, you're brothers. You seriously are.
So he was up there in 97 and I was there in 99. So we just missed each other, In fact, there was a roller hockey league that people said that was at Hockeytown that ended right before I come in, which is just weird that I walked in as they left.
How old is Hockeytown? It's two full-size ice rinks downstairs and the street hockey rink.
It was part of a larger complex. They used to have 6 rinks. They had 3 there. The upstairs rink we play at was actually ice. Okay. And I heard that they actually shuffled the Zamboni up there in parts and assembled the Zamboni upstairs. Okay. Because it is upstairs. And it's a smaller rink. It's not full size. It's a smaller rink. And then
but it's bigger than a tennis court.
Yeah. It's much bigger than that. Yeah. I think I measured it at, it was only 60 feet wide by 130. Something like that. It was small. But they opened in 1972 and they had 3 rinks there and they had 3 rinks in another city. So actually Hockeytown was rinks 4, 5, and 6, and the other one was 1, 2, and 3 and in 1972. And then at some point, I don't know if they broke off or they sold it or closed it, what happened, but it was just keeping the Hockeytown rink going.
Okay. So I guess going back, how many people from the start, from those days on the tennis court, you wouldn't happen to have any parts of that original scoreboard, would you? Are they long gone? Or are they in a box someplace? Or
no, yeah, because that was just a board. And I think at some point when we got the electronic scoreboard, we threw it out. Funny comment from Mark Forsberg, if you want to put that up. So when I first started playing there,
I didn't realize Detroit was Saugus.
This is Hockeytown and Saugus. That
There's
they put up
back for you.
Yes, they have done some bike things upstairs. There was a couple times that we had to cancel because they had a bike event going on in that rink. Yes, they did. But getting back to the Hockeytown, when they first put up their website, they got contacted by the Detroit Red Wings saying, hey, you can't use Hockeytown. Come to find out that they had incorporated that name in such a time that they could have told the Red Wings to stop calling it Hockeytown. If you imagine that, but they didn't. So they both kind of went away amicably. But yeah, they tried to get them to stop using it, and they're like, nope. And then they had lawyers involved. And from what I hear, that they were in the right, and if they wanted to pursue something, they might have been able to pursue it, but they didn't.
It's the Nebraska ETV case of hockey. If you remember, the old NBC logo matched exactly the old Nebraska ETV logo.
No,
and so they said, yeah, remember when NBC had the N, the red and blue N? It was the Nebraska ETV logo, and so they had to change it back to the peacock. And to help alleviate some salve the wounds, there was several $1 million of equipment donated to Nebraska ETV for that. All right, so let's go over the years. 20 years. You're obviously an original. Who's been doing it with you for that long?
Let's see. Eric Higgins was one of the original members, and he still plays with us. He keeps taking time off. He took some time off, here and there and everywhere, but he ended up coming back. And I'm not sure if he's playing with us now or if he took off from last season, but he showed up today and played in the 20th skate. So he's one original member that still kicks around with us. Dave Belisle, we talked about him. He was an original member, and he took, I want to say 10 years off or 14 years off. Cause I think if I looked at his stats, his last point was in 2005, and tell
the story of how you two got back together again. He was on This Week on the E, and it is a great story.
Yeah, so he played with us through about 2005, then he stopped playing. I'm not sure. I don't remember why he stopped playing, but then we kind of lost touch. He got married and had some kids, and I was still running the league over here. So he did his thing, he did mine. And I went in to the local car dealership to get my I was looking at a new car, and he's sitting in the lobby, and we started chit-chatting right there in the car lobby. I says, I just picked up a new car. He's like, yeah, I'm looking at getting a truck. And I says, you should start skating again with us. He's like, that's a good idea. And he called me like 3 days later, and he's like, yeah, let's go buy me some new stuff. And I kind of thought he was half kidding. And he shows up at my house, and we took a ride to Pure Hockey, and he spent a couple $100 on gear and skates and a whole bit. And next thing you know, he's skating with us, and he's skating. And so he took, I think it was 13 or 14 years off between games, came back and has been playing. I think he hurt his hamstring, so he's missed a couple of weeks, but he's technically still playing with us after a 14-year layoff. And we've had a few other people that have taken some time off and then came back, and some guys stayed and some guys didn't. Another original member, Chris Spencer, was a goalie with us from day one. He's not playing anymore, but he showed up today. He was one of the honorary captains. Yeah, so it was kind of fun that he was there on the bench today in the whole bit. So so there's a few guys from the original days that still kick around, and there's some guys that keep in touch with us, on Facebook or Twitter or email or stuff too, that don't play anymore. And some guys have moved away, and they still keep in touch with us. In fact, we had this one guy, his name was Scotty Segara, and he hasn't played with us in probably 10 or 12 years. He moved away. He was back in Massachusetts, and he showed up to play, and he filled in a couple of games. Come to find out, he scored the first ever Tuesday night goal. And I didn't know that till I went back and looked. And I was like, do you realize you scored the first ever Tuesday night goal? I think it was something like that. And it's just kind of funny that he showed up and played again,
That's awesome. I went off camera, so I've been trying to fight this little cold.
Okay.
And so I've been doing these little vitamin C things. And the last one I had was a grapefruit, and I wanted to get that taste out of my mouth. And so what did I pull out of the bag?
Grapefruit.
Yeah. Good question here.
Okay, roller hockey plays 4-on-4. There's a few different rules from ice hockey. So roller hockey plays 4-on-4. It's actually one big zone. Okay, so there's no clearing the zone. There's no icing. There's no offside. The only reason they have a center line is basically for hand passes and things that you can only do in your defensive zone. So picture ice hockey, you can play it with your hand in your own zone. In roller hockey, you can play it with your hand in your own zone, which is basically half the court. Okay, so there's no icing, there's no offside, so you can stand in front of the other goalie all night long, and never have to move. And we did actually have icing and offside in our league because I thought it was kind of stupid to have, someone stand in front of the net the whole time, but that is roller hockey. And so we had them, and one by one, we started getting rid of some of the ice hockey rules. So now it's all wide open. And with such a small court, it kind of works out as
you
well.
really can't cherry pick because you're going to get burned the other way,
you're
right?
Trapped. Now, the fun thing is, if you've ever seen NHL 3-on-3 overtime, especially the Golden Knights, watch the Vegas Golden Knights. Their overtimes are so fun. And you see a player skate into the zone with somebody and then skate all the way back to center ice and go back in. That's playing roller hockey. That is what roller hockey is. It's skating in, skate out of the zone, use the whole ice, go back in your zone, curl around. It's very, so if you watch 3-on-3 overtime when the guys use the whole ice, that's kind of like what roller hockey feels like.
Handball is on a basketball-sized court, I think, from what little I've seen.
I'm not sure the size of
handball. I think that, it's kind of unique, and it can be kind of on any size court. I mean, it was small when speaking of Tony Whitehill and the street hockey team that I was the quote-unquote coach for a year, but my mother would call it cage violence because we were on a basketball court. And I threatened to play goalie once. We figured we could tape a stick to my knees. No one wanted to take a shot at me. Anyway, other players that came along when you moved inside, talk about maybe 4 or 5 players that you've maybe befriended over the years or really impressed you, or
boy, there's so many. I mean, I will say this, that I didn't do this myself, is that over the years, different players have stepped up and helped me out, whether it's, running the day for me if I was sick, or refereeing, or scorekeeping, or taking pictures. It was always, I always was lucky enough to have somebody step up, and they would do it for a while. Then they're like, okay, I can't play anymore. And then somebody else would step up. And even the new guys that come in now, they see that it's a different feel to this league. It's a good camaraderie. The teams, we try to balance the teams the best we can. It doesn't always work, but we do try. And the people coming in just get a different vibe when they play in the league, and they realize that it's a good time, and that there's, people get dressed, next to each other, and then after the game they hang out, and it's just they buy into what we're doing here. And when people buy in, people want to help out and make it better, because they know I can't do it myself. I just can't do everything all myself. And people will step up and like, hey, what can I do? You want me to take some pictures of the game? I'll take some pictures of the game for the website. You want me to score keep? If you want me to ref, when you need me to collect some jerseys, there's all this stuff that goes on during the night. And so it's hard to nail down 1 or 2 guys, because so many people. I mean,
right.
Even in when we were outside, I get people that there was one guy that we bought nets, okay, because the nets got stolen at the rink, if you can believe it.
Really?
So they put up these crappy nets, and they're like, oh, these are terrible. So we bought nets. I bought nets, and we had a guy with a pickup truck that would show up at my house, pick him up, bring him to the rink, stay the whole night, and then bring him back to my house, because we weren't going to leave him there. And so that's the help I got from some of these people. And, when I had foot surgery, I had people that would come downstairs and lug all the stuff upstairs for me. So people just saw what we were doing here and wanted to be a part of it and wanted to help when they could. Now, that's not everybody. Some people show up and play hockey and leave, and,
right.
and I don't know anything about them, and that's fine, but I've been real lucky that people have seen what we're trying to do here, and, they help out. So it's hard to say. I don't want to name names, because I would probably forget some people, and that's not fair.
Right.
Because it's been 20 years, and over the 20 years, you got some guys that helped me for the first 4 years, and you get some guys that helped out from 2003 to 2007, and some guys from 2007 to 2010, and just different people stepped up at different times.
Has there ever been an effort from Saugus or any of the other neighboring communities to do what you're doing and put it in a proper park and rec league with support from a town, or is it all, to make it a public endeavor? Yeah,
it's all been independent.
Okay.
We've had the Boston Globe come up a couple times and do some articles on us, which was kind of neat. And they come up, take some pictures, and talk to me and talk to guys in the league. So we've had a couple of articles in the newspaper back in the day, which was kind of fun. But we've been independent the whole time.
But this is not, I mean, just to give people an idea who may not be familiar with the EMRHL, this is not, I mean, it's a mom and pop league, but it's not a rinky dink league at all. You've got serious sponsors, not $1 million sponsors, obviously, but you've actually got, honest to goodness sponsors. I remember watching some Red Sox games this year going, oh yeah, they're sponsors of your league too. I don't know if you got a uniform handy you can show. If you want to go get a couple to show,
Yeah.
I'll put on full screen. All right. This takes an incredible amount of work. And when Dave comes back, we're going to talk about the day-to-day operations of the league and some of the innovations that he's come up with, the draft thing, and how to make it work. Because if you've been in part of any project, whether it's a play-by-meal league or any sort of gaming endeavor, that 6 months is a great milestone, or a couple seasons is a tremendous milestone. The fact that he's done this for 20 years, to me, is absolutely incredible. And the amount of time that he puts into it. All right. We were talking about you while you weren't here. So yeah, I mean, Joe, what do these guys get to skate around in?
So this is one of the jerseys here, Bates Insurance. That's one of our sponsors, one of the guys in the league. Dave Belay, we were talking about him all night long. He actually has his own company,
Paramount Savings. Yep.
Paramount Wealth Strategies. Yep. There's one here you might see too, at Fenway Park.
The IBEW. Show the back too. Show the numbers.
So we got the numbers on the back. On the side we have the sleeves. We have Hockey Town on one side, and we have the 20th logo on the other side. We also have it's dark over there, so I thought I grabbed the we have East Boston Savings Bank as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a couple other here I should mention here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll plug them out. So Everett Bank was another one. They have the teal jerseys. Alpha Omega Hobby in Quincy, they had the really good black and white King style jerseys. One Call Ventilation had some tan jerseys. Aces Games and More, they were the winner today. They have the red, white, and blue. So actually, they've won 2 championships. The Aces Games and More and Revere, they've won 2 championships. So everyone's going to try to grab those jerseys. Excuse me. Ernie bought a set of jerseys for his company, and JR, I'm going to spill the beans here. JR bought the red ones. He wanted the seniors jersey, and unfortunately, JR is moving to Florida, so he played his last game. Or he didn't play today. He was injured, but he showed up for the last time today for a while.
That's the over 50 things, right?
Yeah, that was the red ones. Those are really nice Calgary.
Yeah, I'm not eligible for that yet. All right, let's go through day-to-day things. I mean, you talked a little bit about that. This is your, among with other things, that you work from home doing this. All right, then I'm going to change the question.
Luckily, no blood.
One of the things that struck me when I first met you, and we talked about and you asked about the show, was the civility of all these players. It's hard to take a room full of boys with sticks and egos and get them generally to behave with one another. And I remember asking you at one point offline, how many fights you have, and you say hardly ever. How do you pull that off? Because it is a sport that kind of raises tempers.
It does, but there's a lot of leagues, like mine, they don't deal with the fighting because there's just too much liability and people getting hurt with fights. And so you take that serious. And, we've had some back in the day, but not too many anymore. I mean, the guys are getting older now. And when you come in, you realize you don't need to fight. There's nothing. I mean, we've had tempers spill, we've had pushing and shoving, we had rolling on the ground sometimes. But as far as full-fledged fights like you think about, we don't. Because I wouldn't stand for it. If someone comes in and is going to fight, you're gone. And I tell new guys that. I said, say what's required. It's like, well, you need skates and helmet and gloves, and I said you need to have a sense of humor. And I says, before we put you on a team, we need you to see you skate at least one time. And they say, why? And I said, well, because if you come up and you start problems, you ain't coming back. And I take that very seriously. So if you come up and you're playing in your first game and you think you're going to fight somebody, then you go play somewhere else. And guys seem to respect that. And that's the first thing I do when I referee, whether it's the ice hockey or the roller hockey. When getting into a beef, I skate in and I say, no punches. That's what I say. The first thing I say is no punches. Scream and yell, glove to the face, whatever. No punches. Once you start throwing punches, sorry, dude.
You're out. Because I noticed, because we'll get into the tremendous effort that was put into getting all those stats in. But I noticed in some of the games that I did that there were hardly any roughings, pushings, whatever. And so either you're good at letting some steam blow off, or people have just been good because the stuff I was doing was not.
We'll go a whole night on Tuesday or a whole day on Saturday without a penalty at all. It doesn't mean that stuff hasn't occurred, but you try not to call it. You try to let the game play out. But if a guy gets tripped or hooked a scoring chance, that's fine. Because it's roller hockey, there's a lot of collisions. That's the other thing, is that you can't stop like you can in ice hockey. So there's a lot of guys that collide, and so you can't really call a penalty on that. There's times that I've been tripped. Somebody will be skating next to me, and our skates will meet if the wheels hit. Your skates come to a stop when the wheels hit because they're rubber. And so I'll be skating, and all of a sudden the one foot stops and I fall down, and I know exactly what happened. A guy skated next to me and our wheels met, and both our skates just came to a stop. And it's just funny how that happened. So a lot of times it's not a penalty to be called. And do we miss stuff? Yeah, we do.
Yeah. All right. The answer to this is none. But
no. My roller hockey league has JR was the only guy over 60. Hockey Town has an over 60 league.
Really?
Yeah, they do.
Ice or street? Or
it's ice hockey. Yeah, they have an over 50 league. They've been running probably as long as I've been running my league, maybe longer. And they have an over 60 league, and they had 5 teams. I think it's down to 4 teams that plays on Sunday afternoon. Over 60, no joke.
Wow.
Yep. And the over 50 league, they play on the same night as I do, Tuesday night. So I go down and I get to watch them. And these over 50 guys, let me tell you, they're all college people. And some of these guys are fantastic players. I couldn't keep up. Well, I'm 50 now, but like 10 years ago, I couldn't keep up with
play because you play a lot.
I could play in the B division in that, but I couldn't play in the top. And these are guys that they're still good. It's like, oh my gosh, how old are you? And you're still skating like this?
What is the age range for the league?
Oh boy, we get as young as 16 or 17 have played with us, and all the way up to JR, who's 60, 61. I'm early 50s. I think Ernie and Cause, who's in the chat here, they're in their mid 50s. I don't know if Steve Fabiano is 50 or not yet. But we got a handful of guys in there. Most guys are 30s or 40s right now.
There. So I was hoping you didn't see that, so I could sneak it up on the screen for you.
Cause joined us. Boy, Cause, when did you stop playing? Was it 01 or 02?
A long time ago.
And a funny Cause story for Eric here. He came up as a free agent, and we put him on a team, a team of buddies. All these buddies were playing. And it just the buddies just they were just they were their own group, right? So it was so bad that Cause come over to me and I said, Cause, there's like 1 game left in the season. Just finish the season out, and then I'll put you on a different team. He's like, okay, fine. So the team got done playing. They all come off the ice, and all the buddies got together, and some girlfriend took a team photo. But they didn't have Cause in the picture. They wouldn't let Cause in the picture. guys, let's get a team photo. And like, yeah, Cause, can you go over there? So poor Eric never got in the team photo. I was like, yeah, you ain't gonna play on that team anymore.
Just like that.
And they weren't bad guys. It's not like they were bad guys. It's just they had their own little thing going.
There you go.
Keith Evans, Big Daddy Evans. Okay. He played today. He's one of our legacy goalies. Keith played, I believe, in the first ever Tuesday night game. Okay, he was one of our first ever goalies on Tuesday night. In his first game, he broke his finger.
No.
He broke his finger in his first. And I'm like, what are we going to do? We just started playing. We got 4 teams. We got 4 goalies, and one of them breaks his finger. So Yeah, cause that was a funny story about cause. And that
That's
was
great.
that was the Mellows cause, by the way. The Mellow brothers and Jack and George. And we had this one guy, and he mostly did it outside, but I think he played 1 year with us inside. He would score a goal, or his teammates would score a goal, and he would scream out an NHL player name. So he would score, he'd be like, Straka, Madano. Every time he scored, he would say some guy's name. I was like, everyone's looking at this guy, and he's celebrating by screaming out, like, NHL names, Burke, Neely. But he was having fun. Hey, if you're having fun, you're having fun. So, and a roller hockey dice game. No,
I don't know how you do
I don't know
it.
how you would do that, because it's so different. It would just be a regular hockey game, probably. Yeah. But that was not a lie. He broke his finger, still doesn't work correctly. But he played today. Well, I hadn't seen him play in a while. He filled in a couple times on a Tuesday night, but he played really well today in that game today. And he had the old horsehair goalie pads. And I told him, wow. I says, if you were to pick up a pair of goalie pads now, you wouldn't believe how light they are instead of lugging around those heavy things, So Big Daddy, we call him Big Daddy Evans. He played today. And on Tuesday nights, okay, we had to cut our teeth actually because street hockey was big when we were up there in 2001, okay? And there was no place to put us during the week. So the only time we could play, we played 10 and 11 o'clock at night on a Tuesday night.
Oh, my God.
And they said, we want to make sure before we start moving any other teams around, or we move our street hockey, we want to make sure you're serious. So our guys back in 2001 gutted it out and played 10 and 11 o'clock at night. And they did that for about a year. And then during the summer, they had less teams, so we were able to play earlier in the summer. And then slowly but surely, we added teams. We got more hours, and to a point now, probably going back 10 to 12 years now, we've taken over Tuesday night, and we have the rink ourselves on Tuesday night. But in the beginning, we played late, Matt. And now the guys complain about a 9:30 game at night. But imagine an 11 o'clock game. But that's what we had to do and I said, guys, we need to establish ourselves. If we can't do this, they're not going to take us serious, and they're not going to give us primetime hours. But slowly, so our league grew. And the Tuesday night street hockey league started to shrink, and to a point where we grew to 8 teams. So we took all 4 hours.
Talking about the finger, how do you get liability insurance for something as, safe and, family friendly as hockey?
You got to go get it and buy it.
Right. No, but
I use the same one that the ice hockey league does. So they referred me to a guy that does that. So I'm not tied in with them, but we use the same person. So.
Right. So, walk us through some of the day-to-day things that other people may not be aware of in running the liability insurance. And you obviously have I think you have a very good relationship with Hockey Town. I mean, their patches run the jerseys, for crying out loud.
Yeah. We've been with them a while. So, I mean, they know us there, and they, so we've been there a while. I'm probably one of their longest standing customers at this point between the ice hockey league and the roller hockey league.
Right.
But the old joke, my old pastor used to laugh that people make fun of pastors that they only work an hour a week. The hour sermon on Sunday, and that's the only hours they work. So that's the old joke. And there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, whether it's setting up the website or doing the schedule. Your schedules are tough because all these people, hey, I can't play this, I can't play that. Can you schedule me this? Can you put me back to back with this guy? And you go to sit down to do the schedule, and you have all these parameters, and you're like, it ain't gonna work, So I'll get as many as I can to work for as many people as possible. But doing the schedule is just difficult, trying to get that to work. Knowing who doesn't show up to early games and who doesn't show up to late games, you have to factor all that stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Friday night at midnight, phone goes off, goalie's out, first at 7 o'clock Saturday morning. What do you do? It's midnight on Friday. Luckily, with Facebook, it has been pretty good. I can post something on Facebook at midnight, and somebody will see it, and they'll show up at 7. So we get lucky like that. But Tuesday afternoons, I'll be sitting here having lunch, making everything's fine, and next thing you know, I got 3 goalies out on Tuesday night, and you're scrambling. And one time this year, we had a game without a goalie, and before that, it was probably 15 or 16 years maybe 18 years before we had a game without a goalie. You have to have goalies. I work real hard to make sure that we do. And the one time he didn't, the guy's power went out and he overslept, and he called me, at 7 a.m. says, I'm still home. My power went out. I didn't wake up. And, we all just made the best out of it, just because it just
play 5-on-4. Is that what
we skated. We just played around until one of the other goalies showed up from the next game. And we said, hey, get dressed quick. We'll salvage what we can. And that's all you can do. Well, you have to have goalies. Without a goalie, there's no game. The ice hockey league that I work with at night, if there's no goalie, there's no game. It's a forfeit. They don't play.
Yeah, you have to, because, especially for that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that go on during the week, during the day, that goes unseen. There's a lot of, texts and emails and calls that I get that I, for league stuff I deal with, most of it is finding goalies and finding refs and dealing with the last minute bailouts and, try to pull it off every week. It's like pulling off a concert. You prep for the concert, you set up for the concert, you put on the concert, then you break down the concert and you get ready for the next one.
But you are responsible essentially for 10 games a week, and you are doing something at least 1 hour a day, every day on those other 5 days to make sure that those 10 games can happen.
Yeah,
would that be fair? Or?
I'm confirming with players and who's available, who can play, who's not going to be there, things like that. Then I have all the jerseys. I will be washing 10 or 12 sets of jerseys every Saturday. That takes 3 or 4 hours to get them. And
the laundry king of Saugus, Massachusetts.
Just doing the website, trying to keep up with that, putting in the stats, linking it all, trying to put some photos up. There's a lot. I try to, there's a lot that goes into it, and I'm not saying anybody feel bad for me. It's just that's just my job, It's just because I want a good website. I want a good community. I try to weave in Facebook and Twitter and things like that, and Instagram to, I have someone who helps me do the Instagram. He basically does the whole Instagram thing for me. The guy's like, hey, I'll do it for you. That's what I do. I enjoy it. It's like, I don't know anything about Instagram. He's like, I'll handle it. And this is the type of help I get from these guys, is that people step up and they're like, hey, I'll do that for you. I'll take a picture. I'll design a logo. When Brian Estrella designed a logo, he come down and showed us the logo. I was like, boy, that's unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Jay Frazier, you mentioned him. You mentioned the cup's named after him. Any more to that story? Or why did you name the trophy after him? Is that just your inspiration?
Well, we didn't. We had just a standard trophy. It was only about 18 inches high, maybe 15 inches high. And I had started to put all the people's names on it that won it. Well, after 3 or 4 years, there was no more room. And so we were trying to figure out what to do. And I just kept using that trophy over and over and over. And finally, I want to say it was about 7 years ago, I says, we need to get a cup, something you can haul around. But, what am I, I don't want to be spending $1,000 on this thing. And so I went down to either Home Depot or Lowe's, and I found this big potted plant thing. And that's all it was. It's something you put this big potted plant in, and it looked like a cup, and it looked like something you could hold over your head. And I bought some paint and I painted it, and I spent probably, I think it was like $150 on it. And I painted it, and then I went and I bought all this little laminated stuff and silver paper, and I printed every team and every name of anybody that's won the cup, and I double sticked it to this thing. And so it's weird because it's all these little laminated things stuck to this big cup, and they wrap around like the Stanley Cup. But everybody's name is on that's won the cup, and it goes back 20 years. It goes all the way back to the very first championship. I think I'm behind. I think I haven't updated it since last year, so I got to put a few more teams on there. But so when it came down to naming the cup 7 years ago, I was like, well, we got to call it something. And I was like, well, why don't I name it after the guy that actually started this whole thing? And it was Jay Frazier. He's the guy that called me, that got me out of bed on Sunday morning and started doing this. And he actually played a few years. I think he played up until 2003, 2004 himself, and then he stopped playing. He hurt his back. But if it wasn't for his call, and it was his second call. It wasn't even his first call.
You slept in.
I slept in the first day, and he could have said, hey, screw Dave, and then none of this. But it was, hey, we're going to play again. You're going to be there. And I was there, and then every week, that's how it took off from there. So I said, it's only right that we name it after the guy that kind of kicked this whole thing off. And the first time he presented it, Jay's actually a magician, by the way.
Is he?
And he's a fantastic magician. And he didn't stop by today because he had 3 magic gigs. And he goes everywhere. He goes to Boston. He goes to Vermont. He goes to Cape Cod. He goes, yeah, you name it. He's really, really good. And he showed up in his magic gear, kind of almost like a tux. Not quite a tux, but it was all jazzed out. And he brought out the cup and put it on. We had a table at Center Ice the very first time. And he brought the cup out. And I got a video somewhere, him walking the cup up with his name on it and setting it down. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And there was one time probably about 4 or 5 years ago, he worked at a restaurant. He was a bartender, and we brought the cup in and we put it on the counter, and he was telling the cup, he goes, "This is cup's named after me." And people thought they were kidding. And he took the cup over and showed him and said, "No, that's my cup with his name on it." Now, even to take this even further.
Yes.
One of the waiters at that same restaurant come up and says, "I played in that league and my name's on that cup too." And who are you? And I'm Mike so-and-so. And we looked at the cup and there was his name on the cup. And he hadn't played with us in, I don't know, 10 years. And his name's on there. And it was like, that was really cool. Bringing it in. His one guy, "Yeah, I remember playing in that league. I think I'm on there." And he was.
Now, is Jay's name on the cup in a championship way too, or just on the cup because you were nice and you deserved it?
Oh, no. He was on a winning team.
He was on a winning team. Yeah. Over the years, is there a game? I know you don't like to, single out players and stuff like that, but is there a game or a team over the years that really struck you and going, "Oh my God, this is incredible"?
There's a lot of things that stick out, some good, some bad.
I'm not looking for bad.
No. There was a team I was on when they actually did the article in the Boston Globe. And it was 02 or 03. And the team was called the Sled Dogs. And we were horrible. And one of the players on the team was Adam Muse. Actually, his brother was the goalie for BC, who went on to win the championship with them and a few minor league titles. But Adam Moose was on the team. Steve Diggs was on the team. I think Chris Spuglia was on the team. Just named some guys. Jay Collins was the goalie for the Sled Dogs, and it was Jay's first season. And Jay was a super, super nice guy, and we got clobbered every week. And I remember skating up to him, and I was like, "Please don't quit. Please don't quit." I says, "It's really a fun league, and it'll get better." And he was such a good natured guy. He didn't care. So the Sled Dogs was probably one of the worst teams I ever played on. We were a really, really tough team, but we had a good time, and we just got smoked every week. And another team that jumps out at me was a few years ago was the Maple Leafs. We were called the Maple Leafs, and I didn't think we had a snowball's chance at all of winning. And we won the whole thing with our best defenseman blowing off the championship week. So we played the semifinals and the finals without our best defenseman, and we won. And I remember we were up by a couple of goals late in the game, and I turned around and looked at the clock, and it was 30 seconds left, and we had just cleared the ball. And I was like, "Holy cow, we're going to win this thing." And that was one of my favorite championships. It was with a team that we had no business being in at all. So there was some good and some bad, and it's all good. But even some of the bad teams were kind of funny. And my team this season, the Saturday team, we had so much fun. We finished in last place, but we had this ridiculous record. I think the record was something like 2, 3, and 6 or something like that. We went to overtime 6 times in 10 games because we play a short summer season, but 6 out of 10 games went to overtime, and we would laugh every time we would either give up a late goal or score a late goal, go, "Here we go in overtime again." And we finished in last place, but we had a good time because we kept going to overtime. So those a few of the teams that stick out. And let me see, Keith is saying the Boardwalk Bullies. Yeah, that was another good team that we had on Tuesday. And I think Keith was the goalie for the Boardwalk Bullies.
Get a little freaky here for just a second, but you're going to see why.
Well, we got something going on here. Oh, he found something. Oh, yep. There it is. Yep, that's the article there. Yeah, so that's the Sled Dogs. So that's Frosty, Jay Collins in net. That's Adam Muse clearing the ball away. And I think that's John White, which was one of our original members. And the funny thing about John White, big, tall guy, didn't skate very well. And he laughed. He goes, if I'm gonna be in the newspaper, how the heck is gonna be for roller hockey? Because I can't even skate. So that
When
was an
one
article.
game ends, the next game starts. There's no Zam. I don't know why I'm looking at the camera because all you can see is the.
Yeah, there's no Zamboni. Yeah, so that was the article. I still have a big printout of that somewhere. I think it's actually probably behind me in the closet here. I did keep some of that stuff back in the
Checking
day.
fights banned in league based in Saugus by Bob Reinert, Globe staff correspondent. If this gets me copyright struck, Gardner, if your ideal recipe for hockey includes cold weather, ice pucks, and sharp blades, you might not care for the Eastern Massachusetts Roller Hockey League. But if you watch one of its games for just a while, you may become hooked on a sport that uses wheels and balls, allows no checking, and needs no Zamboni.
Yep, that was pretty good. He come up and interviewed us. I think that's a picture of me at the bottom there. And I
Others
think that's
have fallen hard for roller hockey. Just look at the growth of the EMRHL, which began in spring of 1999, with, as we've talked about. It's funny how it just grew, said Dave Gardner of Beverly, the EMHRHL's 35-year-old commissioner.
35. Holy cow. That was 17 years ago.
I just want to play and have fun. We still try to maintain today why we started. We try not to drift too far for that. From that, we try to play as close to the NHL as we can because that's what everybody watches. In fact, another quote from you: "You're not going to go 20-0. You won't. We'll make sure of it. If you do, it's a fluke." And your buddy Jay is quoted in here. Can I get this? Okay. Jay Frazier, 34 of Danvers, is one of those guys. He was there at the beginning with Gardner. "The reason I started playing is I have two small children. I just wanted to get out of the house for stress release and a little bit of exercise." And the last quote from Davey is everybody plays season after season. You get to know everybody. Sometimes they get together and go and play in national tournaments. It's a great place to meet people and go do things outside the league as well. You had a golf tournament, didn't you?
Yeah, some of the guys do golf tournaments. Yeah, and I can say all those things and all those quotes still.
What mullet on you?
I would say all those same things today, 17 years later. So, right. Yeah. So that's me in front of Frosty clearing the ball away. I think that's Al Panico behind us. Al took some time off too and came back, by the way.
And so, Mark Wilson, by the way, is the guy that came up to do the picture.
Okay. So yeah, funny that you found that. Yeah. And there was another one too. We had two of them done, and they were like a year apart. It was kind of funny that someone come up again. It's like, oh, is this going to be a yearly thing? You know.
I couldn't resist. I paid for that newspapers.com thing, and the Globe was one of the papers, and so it was just easy to go through and say.
That was fun looking back at that. So that was July 18th of 2002.
July of 2002. Kyra, the football game will be tomorrow night at 7:30. You didn't miss it. I had part of a cold, lost part of my voice, and I decided I'd much rather talk to Dave Gardner than do that. So it'll be there tomorrow night at 7:30 right here on Retro Sports Network. But yeah. He talks a little bit about the draft. That's what I wanted to get into, because when I met you last year, and for those who may not know, if anyone still from the league is watching now that I've shown pictures of people's mullets and uniforms and quotes from the paper, Dave started to watch, speaking of the Cyber Patriots, started to watch my football games from the 78 season and was interested and was the first person to actually buy time on the channel. For hockeytournaments.com, the best place to go on the net to post your tournament. We got talking about what he did. One of the things that he talked about was how the league drafts teams to make sure that there is a competitive balance in that. Did that start from day one? In day one, was it just buddies playing with buddies? I mean, explain the system and how you came up with it.
Well, I mean, the old thing, you throw sticks in and pick teams. That's one way of doing it, but you really got to divide up the talent. So what the Ice Hockey League did is they started to pick, the best forward, and then get on. Everybody gets a good forward. Everybody gets a medium forward. Everyone gets a good D. If you have different caliber goalies, you factor that in. And so it's basically a fantasy draft. If you were doing fantasy football, fantasy hockey, that's what we did. And that was the only really way to try to get fair teams. No, it doesn't always work. Okay, you can't guarantee that someone's gonna everyone's gonna go 500. But the idea being is a lot of leagues that you talk to people like, we know who's gonna win every year.
Right.
And
because that's not what you want. You don't want that situation. Oh, these twin brothers have been playing it since in utero. Poor mama still has scars from when one checked the other, and that's not what you want.
But rarely do we have an undefeated team, and rarely do we have a winless team. It's happened. Just kind of teams don't gel. But one of our senior members, Dennis McGonigal, probably puts it the best. He's been a captain on Tuesdays for as long as I can remember. I think he started on Saturdays back in 2000 to 2001. He's been with us a long time, Dennis. And he's at the draft. He said, look, some seasons you're going to go 10-5, and sometimes you're going to go 5-10, or 10-4 or 4-10, whatever, how many games he plays. That's just how it's going to be. So you can't expect you're going to win every game. You can't expect that you're even going to go 500, but you're never going to go 14-0 or 0-14. Or if you do, it's going to be a fluke.
And you make trades in the season too to balance. So if a team is rather slow,
trades they're so hard though. We used to make a lot of trades back in the day. We were trading all the time. Every week we'd be trading, trying to balance it. We'd micromanage the crap out of it. Not so much now. Now we got a pretty good handle on who's what and who's this, and a lot of time goes into making the teams because you want to make sure every team has a referee on it. You want to make sure that, if two guys don't get along, they don't play. Sometimes you got a couple of brothers or friends that ride in together. They want to play together. So it's really hard to make a trade because the teams, it's not just a straight fantasy draft sometimes. Sometimes there's a lot of other factors that go into putting the teams together. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of work for me too. And sometimes you trade somebody, they get really angry and they resent you for it. But it's like, I got to try to, shake this team up. I got to just move somebody, and not that you're the problem or you're the answer, but just sometimes moving one guy can just, change a team's attitude, You
want to make sure that people show up from week to week.
Yeah. And you find that when a team's losing a lot of games, those are the teams that don't show up, and nobody wants a forfeit. You don't want, a team to show up with two guys, because they're not happy, they're not winning. So it's a fine line between dealing with poor sportsmanship and dealing with an actual problem, and dealing with a fine line between, look, you're not going to win every week. And if you're going to quit because you don't win every week, well, then I can't have you in the league. And between a legitimate problem of, Dave, we're getting clobbered every week. So there's all these things you got to deal with. And that's why we try to have shorter seasons. You play every team twice and we pick new teams. So you're on a good team, you're on a bad team. It ain't going to last forever. It's just not.
You run through what, 3 seasons per weeknight per year, or 4?
Yeah, the Tuesday league is 14 plus 2, so it's 16 times 3. So what's that? 48. So it's almost a full year for Tuesday. So yeah, we'll get 3 seasons in on Tuesday. Saturday we run a shorter summer season, and then a couple seasons wrap around. So maybe 3.5 on Saturday.
So and that's the other thing. It runs you, unlike the softball leagues, which can only run in the good weather. You play year round.
Yeah, we go year round. Summers can be very difficult, especially on a Saturday. So we take the Saturday off around July 4th, and then we build in one Saturday off in August, just so I don't have to worry about finding referees and goalies, because that takes it. So by the time August comes around, my mind is just gone from, all the cancellations and, people that bail out last minute or no show or whatever it is. It's just part of the job.
Right.
But as I get older now, it's like, I'm just going to take a Saturday in August off just to not have to deal with this. So I that's what we've been doing lately. But summertimes can be very challenging.
Have you ever had a player that might have played at 17, 18, 19 years old that might have gone on to play some college or semi-pro?
No, I don't think we've had that. We've had a couple of guys that have played very high minor league hockey that have stopped in, and we still have 1 or 2 that play with us from time to time. I think there's one. Mark still plays with us on Tuesday, and he played East Coast hockey. I think he did. And we had another guy that played a couple years ago with us. He was in the American Hockey League, but they're local guys, and they just want to play locally, and they know guys that play with us, so they're kind of playing with their buds on Tuesday or Saturday, or whatever it is. But we haven't had anybody start with us and go on. They've been already there, and
right.
Local players. We did actually have who's the general manager of the Maple Leafs now that used to be with the Ducks? What's his name?
It's not Brendan Shanahan, is it?
No.
Someone's gonna know that in the chat. Someone knows.
I forget his name now. He was the general manager of the Ducks. I can picture him now, and I think he's with the Maple Leafs now. If we get it in the chat, someone can look that up in the chat. I don't want to, but I got a funny story about that as well. If we can find out who that was. It wasn't. He's on TV too. He's on the NHL Network sometimes too.
Drawing a blank.
Oh boy,
it's not. Babcock's the coach, but he came from the Red Wings.
Yeah, it's not Babcock. It's not Ferrara. Oh boy, I'll think of his name in a minute. But when that comes up in the chat, I'll try to come up with a story. No, it's not Dubas. Let's see. I'm gonna see if I can type this in real quick. Maple Leafs GM. It's not Dubas. It's not okay. It's not the current one. It was somebody that had done it in the past.
Not Lamoriello.
No.
Anyway,
GM. Oh, okay. Here it is, right here. Burke. Brian Burke. Brian Burke was his name.
Wow.
Okay. So Brian Burke, little known to me, showed up to Hockey Town one day to watch a game. Yeah. Come to find out, his son played in the league.
No.
Yeah. And so his son played in the league because he was going to college up here. And I remember this one time he's like, "Oh, I gotta right after my game, I gotta leave." He goes, "I'm a scout for the NHL." And I said, "Yeah, me too." Right? Turns out it was his son, Brian Burke's son, and he was actually going to scout a game. So he must have been working part-time or whatever. But he told me, he goes, "Yeah, my dad come up last week. Did you see him?" I was like, "No." He's like, so Brian Burke come up and watched us, and I didn't take this guy seriously, and I apologized. I was like, "Oh, I had no idea." The way he said it though was so casual. It's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go meet the president tonight." It's like, "Yeah, me too."
I got a new set of strat cards. I'm going to show you the wing grass. See, I'm scouting this one really well.
Yeah, and it turns out he did some part-time scouting for his dad, and so Brian Burke come up to watch us. Yeah, and occasionally we get a celebrity up there. There was one we do our Burn the Bird tournament the Saturday after every Thanksgiving, and we're on year 8, 9, or 10. I don't remember. We started as a joke, just to say, "Hey, let's go burn off the turkey and play us," and it just grew and grew and grew. And now I'm turning people away on that Saturday for the Burn the Bird tournament. And the Bruins coach, not the current guy, but the last guy. Thanks, Cause. Yeah, Cause has been with us a long time, so he probably knows some of these stories. Who was it? Was it Julian? Claude Julian showed up at the rink during the Bird tournament, and he actually come upstairs and watched us for a minute. It was funny, and everybody was downstairs getting pictures with him. It was pretty cool. And he actually, because his daughter was playing or something.
Bruins at that point, right?
He was with the Bruins at that point, yeah. And so everybody was downstairs chatting with him in the whole bit. So it was a good time.
Because he's with Montreal, no one would ever admit to that now, right?
No, people still got the pictures of it though.
That's cute. That's cute. So tell me more about. I've never heard of the Burn the Bird. Or is it just a one day?
It's a 1 day thing. It goes 4 or 5 hours on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and we show up and we pick teams on the fly. I try to pick the teams the night before, but as it goes, it's Thanksgiving time, so someone's always hungover and never shows. So we'll show up, and I'll just start handing guys jerseys. We usually have 4 teams. Sometimes we have 5 or 6, but usually 4 or 5 teams. And we play these short games, one after another. So you don't sit around very long. And everybody's out of there, noon, 1 o'clock. And we just play a whole bunch of games, and we have a little champion. And it's like a little mini tournament. And it just kind of took on a life of its own, where now everybody wants to play and Burn the Bird on that Saturday after Thanksgiving. In fact, we had a team from Connecticut one time come up and play in that as well. Ray Arnott, who was on our show, the goalie from Connecticut. They have that Lambert tournament every year that they just had last weekend. And so he brought up a team and played and Burn the Bird one year up here in Saugus. So that was kind of fun too.
Ray runs the league out of Groton. Is that technically the Eastern Connecticut Roller Hockey League?
Yep, it is.
Okay.
Yep.
How'd you run into him?
He or his friend Steve contacted me back in 04 or 05 and said, hey, I see you got a roller hockey league. We got a roller hockey league. What do you think about, doing some traveling thing? So we did what was called the Interstate Series back in 2005, where they sent a team up and we got 2 teams. And so the 3 teams played a little tournament up here. Then we drove down to Connecticut and they had 2 teams and we had 1 team, and we played a 3-team tournament down in Connecticut. And that's kind of what it all started. And, we just stayed friends ever since, because he drives up a lot. He travels for work. So he'll just show up at the rink on a Tuesday or Saturday, and he lives like 2.5 hours away. It's like
Groton and Saugus are not close.
No, they're not, but he travels a lot. He'll just show up at the rink. It's kind of fun. And sometimes Friday night, I'll say, hey, I need a goalie on Saturday. He's like, I'll be there. And he'll drive up from Connecticut and play with us, and he didn't make it today, which is too bad because I would have liked to see him today for the 20th. But yeah, he's been going down there in Connecticut. I don't know if it's been 7, 8, or 9 years down there. Now he's getting up there in years down there in Connecticut.
And they play outside, right?
They play outside. They have a huge rink. That rink is huge down there in Connecticut, but it is outside. And he runs into all the things that I ran into in 99 and 2000, where, you wake up and you see clouds and you get 100 phone calls. Are we playing? Are we playing? Is it going to rain? It's like, I'm not a weatherman. I don't know. If it rains, we don't. If it don't, we play. So, and they have a good system. They bought a whole bunch of squeegees and towels. So that even if it rains, they can clear off that court. They have a system down there that's really kind of neat.
Borrow the ball boys and girls from the tennis tournament in New Haven every year, huh? To go up
pretty much.
Is there now a national organization? I mean, how many leagues are like yours around, and do you have contact? And
yeah, there's a lot of independent leagues. There's a couple of upper leagues or travel leagues that go around, pro leagues, if you will. But we're just a rec league where we are, and roller hockey's not that big up here. But if you get on to Long Island or Philadelphia or Jersey, holy cow, there's leagues, 7 nights a week down in those areas.
But there's no national standardized rule book or
no. We were gonna try to team up way back in the day. We were gonna either hook up with USA Roller Sports or USA Hockey. But you really got to abide by their rules, and not that their rules are bad,
right?
We had been independent for so long that I was like, I really don't.
There's enough of a difference that it would kind of.
It was, and then I'd be under their shadow, and they would need to check on things, and the way we do things. Not that we do anything illegal by any means, but just the way we do things, they would probably frown on. So we just stayed independent, and it's like I don't really need anything from them, and they don't need anything from me. I just don't need anybody above me telling me what I can and can't do. And that was kind of the big part of it. It's just like, you got the show here, picture you trying to be part of a bigger show on YouTube, and I say, okay, well, Ron, here's what you can do, here's what you can't do. And you're like, well, I don't want to have a show that has to stop at an hour. I want to go an hour, 15 minutes. No, you need to do an hour slot because that's what we do in our group, things like that. Right. So I have the freedom because I'm independent. I have the freedom to make changes whenever I want. And a lot of the changes came from the players themselves. We would have a meeting. We were sitting at the Kowloon Chinese restaurant having a draft one night, and one guy sits back in his chair. He goes, why do we keep blowing the whistle when it hits the net? Why can't we just play it? And I thought about it. I was like, well, technically it's out of play. He goes, but it would speed up the game. We would have so many less whistles. So he tried it on his suggestion, and now it works. If the ball hits the netting and comes back into play, we play it, and we get way more playing time. We get so many less whistles, and that was
running 17-minute clock per period, right?
Yeah. So if you got to keep stopping every time the ball goes out, and again, it's a smaller court, so the ball leaves. Obviously, if it leaves the rink, but if it hits the netting that's above the net, we play it, and it keeps the game moving. And that was not my idea. There's a lot of things that came to be that were not my idea, that we tried because we can. Whereas if we were part of a larger organization, they might say, no, you can't do that.
What do you use for a ball? It's not a wiffle ball, obviously. Is there a special street hockey ball? Or?
Yeah, this Milik street hockey balls. And they have the orange one for the winter months and the pink one for the summer months. And days like today, we use both because they're in between. So it just I get a whole bucket of balls I take and just you squeeze them. It's like which one is too hard, which one is too soft, or which one is right in the middle, and that's the one we use.
So is it like a solid ball?
Yeah, it's like those old red balls, the old Phil Esposito red balls that you used to see in the packages. That's pretty much what it is.
All right.
Orange. They're orange. They're orange.
So we have about 15 more minutes to give this about an hour 45. If you got any questions that are roller hockey or league related, now is the time to get them in. If Dave didn't tell a story you wanted to hear, now's the time to ask. And here's the first one now from Kenny Castro. Do you squeeze your balls often, Dave?
I have to. I have to know which ones we can play with and which ones we can't, because if it's too hard, it bounces and you can't play with it.
You don't want that.
If it's too soft, then you can't. It's like trying to move a.
You can't play with rolled up socks, essentially. Then.
Yeah, no, that's the other thing too. Yeah.
Biggest lesson you've learned in 20 years? Don't ask Ron Juckett to interview you. No,
that's good. This is what I want you to ask me, these tough questions, because it's 20 years and at this point I don't mind saying it. Probably the same advice. Somebody that used to play in the league contacted me and said, Dave, I'm going to be doing some work with a group. What advice can you give me that you've learned? And I said, honestly, the biggest piece of advice I can give you is to learn how to deal with disappointment. Learn how to deal with people letting you down, people not showing up, people leaving you hanging, and people just bailing out at the last minute. Always have a plan B and a plan C. And I don't mean that in a mean way, and I don't mean to come down on anybody, but that is the one thing I've learned, is that you need to have a plan B and a plan C, because these are people that are playing in a rec league and there's no contracts, and that I can wake up in the morning and my phone could be blowing up with all kinds of bad news, and you just have to deal with it. And, what do you do when a guy's like, my kid's sick, my car won't start, my car overheated, so-and-so texted me at 4 a.m. He's hungover, can't show. I mean, these are all this is the reality of it. You deal with individual people all the time. And one of the guys today, actually, Chris Spencer, we talked about on the show, he was one of our original goalies. He came up to me today and he goes, Dave, I still follow the league all the time, and I see your Facebook post. He goes, I can't believe how many goaltenders bail out on you at the last minute all the time. He goes, that never happened back in the day. And I said, you're right. And I said, but this is what I have to deal with. If I wake up in the morning and I get this, so that would be the one big is to learn that people are going to let you down, and they might not mean it, and they might not want to do it, but they're gonna, and you can't get mad. I mean, you can get mad, but it's just going to happen, and you got to learn how to deal with that. So
tough, especially when you are dealing with younger guys on a Saturday morning, because you and I maybe aren't out partying on a Friday night, but that's not
right. Yeah,
we're atypical of your players.
There's been times that I've actually had to referee my own game because I was supposed to play and I didn't have a referee because neither one showed up and neither one told me they weren't showing up. And so I take off my jersey, I put on the ref jersey, and I ref my own game. And these are some of the things that you have to do to make the game go. And you can't have a game without referees. So
exactly,
I'm the fall guy there. I've had to bring goalie equipment to the rink because we needed a goalie. So I had to drag out my old goalie equipment and haul that upstairs so we'd have a goalie. So you do all these things. You do whatever it takes to make the games go.
When's the last time you played goalie?
I played right before the 15th anniversary. I played a couple of pickup games, and I ended up pulling my groin really bad because I hadn't played in so long.
Right.
I think the last time I had played was probably 02, 03. And I did. I pulled my groin. In fact, when I played in the championship game, which is right before the 50th reunion back in 2014, I was playing with a pulled groin. I could hardly skate in that game because I pulled it from playing net, and I haven't gone back in the net since. I would like to play one more game before I wrap this up, whenever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just afraid that I would pull my groins again, and I wouldn't be able to play or ref in either roller hockey or ice. Now that I'm 50 something years old now, it's a little different. But I would like to get back in again. I did enjoy playing net.
Tony Whitehill asks, you guys have goalies with or without skates?
Both, because we use a ball. If you use It's split. I mean, sometimes it's half and half. We get some guys that started on feet and went to blades, some guys that were on blades and went to feet. But because we use a ball, it's not as critical to be on skates. Now, if you were a part of some of these other leagues and the associations, you would have to be on skates, but that would eliminate half my goalies. So we give the option to do either one.
You do the trapezoid?
No.
Mike Liut, if you're listening, you got a home. Have you ever considered using a puck instead of the ball?
A couple people asked about that. That rink, the puck doesn't go very well in. It's a smaller rink. It's a different floor.
It's a tile floor. I've seen the pictures of it.
Yeah, it's a graded floor. It's not designed for a puck, and it's really small, and the boards don't work well with puck. So I've seen some people go up there and play with the puck, and with the puck, like Ray uses the ball down there in his big court down there in Connecticut, but that would be the court to use a puck on because you need that space for the puck to saucer out and land. Okay, when you send a pass, you want that to go and land because it needs time to settle. On a smaller court like we got, the puck just doesn't work. And
have you got glass or no?
Yeah, we do have some glass. We do. But just the pucks a couple other things about the puck. First off, we would have to have all the goalies in skates because they would break their ankles and their toes with the puck because the puck is really hard. So that would eliminate a lot of goalies, and I don't want to do that. And the other thing is, I don't want to stand in front of a puck, not a roller hockey puck. That's for sure. I played we had a rink on the South Shore for a few years, and I played a couple games of puck, and they would wind up, and I'd get the hell out. No way. The ball stings and it'll leave a bruise. A puck will actually break stuff.
How hard are those balls flying around?
I clocked myself one time at 88 miles an hour.
That's a pretty hard shot.
Yeah. Now, that was a long time ago, and I called myself G88 as a joke. I think Eric Higgins had the hardest shot. He got up over 91 time with the ball. So, but I did at one point clock myself at 88 twice in a row. So I knew it was pretty accurate. And I think it was at one of those NHL things where you took the shot and they had the professional radar gun there. So this wasn't, I have my own radar gun and we bring it up once in a while. And we take shots and it works sometimes and sometimes it don't. But I remember, this is probably 15 years ago. And I remember winding up and taking some boom and slap shots. And with the ball, I got 88 miles an hour.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What town was the South Shore League?
Holbrook. The rink was in Holbrook. And we had the league down there for a while. In fact, in 2006, my friend Ruppy Haley and I had a travel league that we did on top of everything. And we played Holbrook, Saugus, and there was a rink in Tewksbury. And we had a 7-team league. And I don't know how we just put it up on the internet and we got a call. We had 7 teams. And we rotated the 3 rinks around. It was kind of fun. So you could play, one game here and then one game there. We did it on Saturday afternoons after the EMRHL games. And so I would pack up and either we'd stay at Saugus for another set of games or I'd pack up and go somewhere else. And it was actually fun. We only did 1 season of that. But there's a couple of guys that played in that stayed on with us. So there's a couple of guys that, played on some of those teams that ended up staying with us. And that was kind of cool too. I always thought about putting those stats up. I never did, but I have all those stats from that one season.
I want to actually let you give a shout out there. I mean, you've over the last 2 years, you and a bunch of people, a couple of people especially, worked really hard to get 20 years of stats up for the actual anniversary.
Yeah, about 2.5 years ago, I think it was, 19? So that would be early part of 16, I think it was. Either 16 or 17. I tried to find a better stat service than what I had. And at some point, I wanted to get stats up from the past. And I didn't know if I was going to do a cut and paste because my stats were on a program from 2001. In 2001, I spent $300, which was a lot of money in 2000, I bought a stat program. But it did a great job, but it didn't export. So everything was cut and paste of tables. And I was doing that for years. I said, I want to find, we get this database services now that can do all these stats. And I spent 2.5 months, trial and error with all these different services. Some you had to buy, some were free, some were really expensive, and again, some were free. And I settled on the Hockey Shift That's the one that I liked the most, that I could backload all my stats, but you had to do it
real easy to use.
But you had to go game by game by game. And so I would go to my old stat program. I would physically print out the games, or I would screenshot them and send them to people, and game by game by game. And I had a lot of people at the beginning that were helping out. It was great. And then one by one, they peeled off. And I had one of my friends in Pennsylvania that helped me out, and I was sending her 5-6 score sheets a day, and she was like pumping them out for me. And I had some people in the league, I think Ernie and Liam, they were putting in seasons after season. I would print out a season and give it to them, and they would put them in a week. I was like, wow. So we got a ton of help. In fact, I think Ernie finished up the whole Saturday league almost by himself. He goes, give me everything. And I gave him like 10, 15 seasons, and he banged them out. But yeah, our stats go back to the first game in the fall of 2000. And
so you have everything that since you moved indoors.
Yeah, and in fact, I didn't have a complete season. I had to go back to the Wayback Machine and print out a couple of game recaps to fill in a couple of holes I had. There was a couple of games I just didn't have it. I don't know why. And so I did find them. And I did the same with the Blades and Breakfast Friday League. We go back to 2001, I think, with them, because I used the same stat program. So everything before that, I don't have. But yeah, so if you were to go to our webpage and click on our stats and click on, me per se, it would go all the way back to 2000, and you'd see how many games the games played weren't very accurate, because I don't remember who played in the games back in the day. So that's not accurate. But as far as goals and assists and penalties, they should be pretty close to what it is. Yeah, it took 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And people laughed. Remember, there's one guy, Mike Bozio, the goalie Mike. He was doing some for me. He's like, yep, I put in the 10 games you gave me. Now only 5,000 more to go. And you know something?
They're done.
They're done. And as long as that site stays up, they don't go anywhere, we have all of our stats there. And I still continue to use them. But I still use that program from 2000. I still have an old computer over here that it works on, that I still keep inputting like I did back in the day. So I still have them here. So I'm doing stats twice now. So that's one of those other things that I do. Like you said, behind the scenes, I input into my old system. No one ever sees that, but I make sure that I still have them.
Did you ever play in Lakeville?
No, a couple of other guys did, though. Lakeville is even smaller than we're playing right now. That's a 3-on-3 league down in Lakeville. But there's a handful of guys that play down there.
Our Saturday's going fine, Dave S. A few more minutes with Dave Gardner. 20th anniversary celebration today for the Eastern Massachusetts Roller Hockey League. Quite an accomplishment. And they had a get-together reunion skate. Is there a meal involved?
Not this time. Last time, one of the guys that was the driving force behind setting up the 15th, and he got all the stuff done for us, and he actually is turning into a really good chef. And he had he set up sausages and peppers and bread, and he had quite the spread at the 15th. And we did it outside. We had a great day, and he's off doing some other things right now. Vinny Bianco is, but this time we just had the skate. It was weird. This was just kind of thrown together, and I kind of felt bad about it, because the 15th was an all-day thing. It was from 8 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon. We went all day. We were inside. We were outside. We had the championship game. We had an open skate. We had a cookout. People were coming and going all day long. But at the time, they had the outback rink, so that we went out back. So we were outside. And that rink was destroyed about 3 years ago in a snowstorm. So we didn't have the option of going out back. And so I didn't know what we were going to do. So we just opened it up today. We probably had 40 or 50 people stick around for the skate, which was really good. And and some guys went to Hooters, but by the time 1 o'clock rolled around, I was pretty tired. I just wanted to come home and
I was
finish my day.
thinking whether it was catered by Duncan or not, because we had this running joke, because the algorithm, as Dave likes to call himself as a writer on the EMRHL website, will give people crap if they, in a gentle way. It's part of the way the league works. And when we did this week on the E, I heavily suggested that maybe if you ask the algorithm how they like their coffee from Dunkin', that the algorithm might say nice things. Did
Oh yeah,
anyone?
we have a three stars of the week that I put up, and I bust some chops with that. It's all in good fun. Sometimes it's serious, sometimes it's not. But yeah, sometimes a guy will bring me up a coffee, and I'll make him number one star of the week or
There you
something
go.
like that. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of tongue in cheek involved, and I think guys know that now that I give these backhanded compliments, and it's all in good fun. And I made fun of myself too. If I have a bad game, I make fun of myself. If I have a good game, oh, forget it. You're gonna hear about it for 3 weeks. I was number one star for like 4 weeks in a row one time because I had one good game. But that's just part of the fun with it. And the 3 stars, they're not just about stats because it would be the same 3 guys every week. And so the idea is if a real crappy guy gets a goal, he's a star of the week because he's not supposed to score. So
Whatever Foster Hewitt thought whatever he wanted back in the day at Maple Leaf Gardens, because he's the one that came up with it. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah, Foster Hewitt's the one that came up with the 3 stars at the Gardens for the Loop games, and I'm sure he's fair. But by the way, today is the 47th anniversary of Henderson Scores.
Oh, nice.
It is.
I don't remember watching that, but I follow a lot of that.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of the Canada Cup.
But the 3 stars actually, that was done by a player named Chris Tarmay and Johnny Nunes. Okay, if I drop a couple names in there, they don't play anymore. But they were the ones that come up with the idea for the 3 stars, right? So they would do the 3 stars and they would send it to me, and I could just put it on the website. Well, 6 months later, they stopped sending me the 3 stars, and it fell into my lap to do every week. so like a lot of things, a lot of people have great ideas. I'm like, that's great, but are you going to stick with this because it's going to land on my lap and I don't want to have to do any more?
Yeah. You're welcome, Abba Chatter. In your wildest dreams, when you're sitting back there getting blinded by some ass wipe or butt wipe, it's a PG show, flashing his high beams at you as you're rolling down the tennis court. Did you ever imagine that 20 years later you'd still be doing this?
No, nobody does. In fact, I talked to some of the original members, and they can't believe it. They just can't believe that it's been 20 years. Because I remember the 5th year. Like I put up a little logo. I had the like you see the logo up here in the corner here. Where is it? That logo right there. Right. Okay. I put that, and I put a little V in front of it. I found a V online, and I put a V in front of it, and that was 5 years. And I didn't think anything of it. I just, hey, we're 5 years. 10 years, nothing. In 2009, when it was 10 years, I didn't even acknowledge it. And it was probably 3 months before the 15th that I went, holy cow, it's 15. So 5 and 10 flew by like nothing. Didn't even acknowledge it. And then 15 came. I was like, wow, that was a big deal, 15. And then 20 came. I was like, oh boy. So if we make 25, and hopefully we will, we're going to do something pretty good for the 25th. We will have to get better. And Keith said, don't forget the scapegoat. Yeah, on Tuesday night, we have a scapegoat award, and that's to somebody who makes a boneheaded play or something stupid or whatever. And so everyone takes turn being the goat. Not the Tom Brady goat, the scapegoat. So we do have a scapegoat on Tuesday night. Not on Saturday, just Tuesday. That's a thing specific to Tuesday.
What are you most proud of? We talked about the things that disappointed, and you've made great pains not to, to share this effort. But what looking back at all this, what are you most proud of?
I guess aside from the longevity of it is the people that have helped me along the way, that continue to help me, and the new guys that come in that are excited to play in the league and right off the bat notices something special about it. And there was a guy that played today, brand new guy. He's only skated one at a time with us. He showed up today for the 20th skate, and he's so excited to stop playing full time. And he doesn't know anybody, but his first game he played, he had a blast. He played today. He was introducing himself, and is just like, wow, there's something special about this, and I can't wait to be a part of it. And today, Chris Spencer, I keep bringing up, our original goalie, he was the coach of one of the teams today. He got talking to JR, the oldest guy in the league. And I said, Spencer, is JR, he's our oldest member. We've never had anybody this old play in the league. And Spencer says, "What do you think about the league?" And JR, I swear to God, he almost started crying. He goes, "I'm going to miss this league so much." And I almost started crying. I was like, "Holy crap." And there's another guy, Big Tyler, who's moving to Ohio. And he's like, "I'm going to miss this league more than anything when I move." And I hear that from a lot of people. And it makes you emotional that you've done something good that people enjoy. And even though we've had a lot of bad, and I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm not a perfect guy, and I really have tried to do the best for the league and for the guys in the league. When you hear stuff like that, and we've had guys that have moved and moved back and couldn't wait to play again. And they said, one of the reasons I came back was for this, so I could be back in the league. Now, people aren't leaving good jobs to come play in the league, so I don't want to do that. But, they move out, something happens, and hey, let's move back to the Boston area. And then this is the first thing they do is they sign up to play again. And those moments there, those are pretty special to me. And I get a little choked up when I think about those moments. And even when the guys go off and do other things, like they went down last weekend to Connecticut and they played in the Steve Lambert Memorial Tournament that Ray runs, and I don't get to go as much as I used to, and you see all the guys in the league and the pitches, and they're having fun, and it's just, these are all guys that it just makes you feel good that everyone's getting along and they're doing things. I don't know, it's hard to describe, but it's just, those type of things. I'm really proud of.
I can't think of in this area. Now, I'm not obviously the most athletic person in the world. Anything up here, and I don't know if Tony Whitehill's still watching or not. Anything up there that would have even run half as long as what you've been able to pull off. I mean, participation in adult leagues is down. And you got a kid and the kid's athletic, you got to go, as you said, kids don't play everything anymore. You play a sport, then the kid plays the sport. And so maybe there are adult soccer leagues up here. I don't think that they've gone 20 years. I mean, this is, I know that we're not doing, you're not doing this on the actual anniversary, but this is a serious accomplishment. And you should be immensely proud that a handful of people have been with you for. I mean, the Dave Belisle story is great. That he went 14 years between games. You're now at the point where, if there was someone who had a 5 or 6 year old kid, you could conceivably have fathers and sons in the same league.
We did that. We had Shane LeMay played with us for years, and his son Cam come in when he was 16 or 17, and they were playing together. And they I think they might have won a championship together. I'm not sure, but they played together. And unfortunately, they both moved down to Florida. But we did have some father sons playing up here. A lot of brothers play up here with us and the whole bit. And yeah, it's you see that it's just it's just pretty cool. But there have been times I thought about shutting it down. I'm not gonna lie.
No, and
there's been some tough stretches with this league that I was done, and I left the rink, and I'm done. I'm just gonna shut it down, and just the guys get on me about every little thing, whether it was something during the game. And sometimes it wears you down. It does, And there's been times I've come home and I've talked to the wife, and I says I think I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore the way it is right now, and they're few and far between, but there's been times that we discussed that, and and then you get a good night's sleep, and you wake up the next day, and you walk the dog, and then your head clears a little bit and you calm down a little bit. But yeah,
here's the answer that I put out there to Tony, and 8 years is a long time, and it takes a lot of work.
That's the big. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hands-on. It's a lot of, I don't say micromanage, but you got to be on top of everything. And if I didn't put in the effort, if I half-assed it wouldn't be what it is. And whether it's the web page or the stats are showing up, and that one game that we had with Stephen Mills, who was on the show, he was the goalie that overslept, and he's rock solid. He's a captain.
Yeah,
He's He's not going to blow off a game, and he felt terrible about it. And I remember a couple guys skated over to me, and I was like, I'm on the phone. I was like, well, Mills is still home, and it's 7:00. We're supposed to start the game. He's not here, and he feels terrible. And a couple guys come on and said, I've been in this league a long time, and not once have we ever had this issue. So how do you get mad at a fluke,
Right. Yeah.
And there's other leagues that it happens all the time, that there's cancellations or forfeits and that just doesn't happen. Now, I can't control a car breakdown or a last minute or whatever, but
it's amazing what you get done on a Saturday morning. But the Tuesday night, I mean, you're not out partying the night before. There are work issues and kids get sick and all that. But it's amazing what you've been able to accomplish on a Saturday morning starting at 7 a.m.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work on my part,
Yeah.
communication, and like I said, there's times there was one goalie, I won't mention his name, but every Saturday morning he was taking his kid to the hospital. Who am I to doubt his story? But it just seemed odd that every single Saturday morning he was at the emergency room with his kid and it wasn't like a reoccurring thing. It was just something new.
Yeah.
So you deal with stuff like that, and I don't know if he's telling the truth or not. So I just have to go find another goalie. And at some point I said, look, Saturday mornings seem to be tough for you right now. So I'm going to find somebody else to play, because you haven't been here in a month because you've been at the emergency room 4 times.
Right.
So whatever's going on in your house Saturday morning, it's not working. So sorry. I need
feeding the kids strychnine. Last call for questions. People you'd like to thank?
Oh, there's so many of them. It's over 20 years. There's been a lot of people that have come and gone. People that have stepped up from day one and refereed or score kept, or there's been hundreds of people that over the 20 years that have stepped up and done something somehow, some way to make this work. And the big thing is everybody, for the most part, buying into what we're doing, and that's the key. So it's hard to thank anyone, because I know I would be missing somebody, and that's not right. Because this whole, I mean, I remember the beginning and I remember now, but there's a whole block of 10 or 12 years that I got a lot of help, and I was like, boy, I don't remember who was helping me and who was doing what, but so many people have stepped up and and jumped in, and whether it's ref a couple of games or help me out, do something in the whole bit. So there's so many names I could name off, in the chat room here. Cause, has done a lot with us, and he's come and gone a couple of times with his back or whatever, but he's been pretty steady over the years, and a handful of other guys too. So I'd rather not start listing names, because I know I would forget somebody, and that's not right. But there's been a lot of people that, whether they've entered score sheets for me or refereed or done whatever, things like that. So
if you are in the Beverly Saugus area and have somehow stumbled across this and are interested in either playing, reffing, watching, bringing coffee, or razzing, being the scapegoat of the week, best ways to get a hold of league dues for whatever,
Yeah, go right to the website, EMRHL.com, Eastern Massachusetts Roller Hockey League. If you just search any kind of roller hockey in the Boston area, we're going to come up, and you can go right to our website there, and everything's right there. You can click to our Facebook page, our Twitter, and the whole bit. We're pretty active on social media. So, it's not too hard to find us if you're looking to play roller hockey. And this fall season for Saturday, I hope it's going to be a nice big one, because we got a lot of guys that took the summer off and they're coming back, plus all the new guys we're adding, and a couple of the new guys that showed up today. So it gets you excited. The fall season gets you excited.
You can run 12 teams this fall?
I think we should. If I can find enough goalies. I think we had 1 or 2 goalies drop out, so that might be my issue. But we have 10 teams right now. There's only a handful of guys not playing, and if we get the 17 or 20 guys that took the summer off to come back, plus the new guys, we'll hopefully be back up to 12 teams. And that's fun. 6 games, it's a long day, but it's fun because you play a lot of different teams. There's a lot of different chances to fill in and sub in, and it's a lot more stats, and it looks more official when you have 12 teams. That's a pretty good size league.
And how many people are on a team?
We limit it to 8 skaters and 1 goalie.
So 9 on the squad.
So 9 on a squad. And so you play 4-on-4. So the idea is you have 2 lines. That's it. And that's one of the other reasons I kind of started this and started playing roller hockey is that I was on an ice hockey league, paying $20 a game, and they had 3 full lines. And you don't get a lot of skating when you get 3 full lines. You just don't. But the cost of playing ice hockey with 2 lines is now you'd be up to $27 or $28 a game for that. And that's a lot of money to be playing. So I like to think that you play roller hockey, you get more playing in for less money playing roller hockey.
But you got 108 guys playing Saturday hockey, ideally.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
that really is.
It is.
On that note, all right. So Dave Gardner, of course, does a variety of other things, including the sponsor, the host of digitaldice.com, the podcast where we actually talked hockey games this week.
We did. That was fun. It's so fun playing some of these games. It really is.
Tomorrow we got a baseball, football doubleheader on this channel, or Sunday if you're watching this on tape. We start with an American League semifinal in that 60s tournament. The 1967 Boston Red Sox go to Yankee Stadium in the Bronx to face the 1961 New York Yankees. It's Yaz versus the M&M Boys. That's live at noon Eastern right here on this channel. And at 7:30 tomorrow night, it's makeup football. They just couldn't get that damn snow cleared off the field in Denver until tomorrow night, and watch it be like 75 and rain. It'll be the 1986 week, whatever week I'm doing, replay between the Patriots and the Denver Broncos, 7:30 tomorrow night, and I'll play the rest of whatever week I'm playing, and it's a triple header, 2 live games and a tape game for you next week. Chicago and Minnesota, both, so it's week 5, are both 4-0. They play for the first time. I believe the tape game is going to be Washington and New Orleans because Washington's undefeated. And the other surprise game, the 3-1 Buffalo Bills and the 3-1 New York Jets.
Some good times there.
So some good times. So
before we wrap up,
yes.
We both play. We've been playing some hockey games on the computer, on the tabletop, or whatever. I've been playing Stratomatic hockey and having some fun. And I just want to just take like a minute to talk about that. And because we've both had some really, really crazy games. So sometimes we stream them on our channels and sometimes we don't, but just a little hockey talk here at the end. I'm replaying the 71-72 Boston versus New York Stanley Cup Finals with Stratomatic hockey. As I'm learning how to play it, I'm just playing the basic mode right now. And so the Bruins win game 1, 3-1. And I'm like, oh, this is great. Bobby Orr, Esposito, we won 3-1. Sanderson had a goal. This is gonna be fun, right? Game 2, Eddie Johnson's in net for the Bruins against Velemir. The Rangers score 3 times on their first 4 shots.
Great stuff.
I got a yank Johnston. I put in Cheevers. He gives up 5. And the Rangers win this one 8-4 in game 2 to even the series out. So that's the fun I've been having playing some of these games. Now you were I was sending you that on Messenger. I was like, you ain't gonna believe this. It's 4-0 New York in the first in my replay. And then we were going back and forth. But you were playing a game, and you sent me some stuff too that you were playing. So you were playing the Strat, the PC game. I
just bought the Strat PC game, and I bought the 81-82 season, and I'm thinking of doing some. Yeah, Ouch is right. Doing a 2T replay in that. And first game of the year, it's the Islanders and the Kings, or as I call them, the margin wrappers, back when they're they're gold and their Laker color days. And Mario Lassard, is that the name of the goalie?
Yep.
For the Kings. Someone had an inside shot from the Islanders, got a goalie rating. It's 1-19 is a goal, and the 20-sided die rolled a 20. And I ended up losing the game by a goal. Didn't help that Bosley and Trottier couldn't put in a rebound to save their life. But, just one of those things that just makes it so exciting.
Yep. It was.
Oh my!
You showed me that, and I was like, "Am I reading this right?" A 1-19 for a goal, and you rolled a 20.
And it's a 20,
and that would have tied the game. And I had the same thing in my game, my very first game. Guy Lafleur, who was on Quebec, had a chance to tie it in the last second. He needed 1-4. He rolled a 2. for a goalie rating. Okay. No, he rolled a 2, and then his own rating was 1 to 14, and he rolled a 16. He did not score to tie the game.
Our thoughts are with Guy Lafleur as he is recovering from heart surgery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
okay, good.
Yeah,
And I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thankfully it went. I saw that it went well. It was what they had described as a pretty, fairly risky surgery. So
cool. And little shout out to Dave S, who I've been leaning on his videos on YouTube quite a bit to help me with the strat. I still got some questions. I don't know if we're friends on Facebook, Dave. I gotta double check if we are or not. But I got a couple of penalty questions that I need cleared up with strat hockey and things like that. So I might be leaning on you some more as I learn this game.
Next week, probably on Saturday, I'm going to talk with the guests. We're going to be talking Pine Tar baseball and the addition of manager cards with our friend Kurt Berglund. And then I got to figure out a time where Dave, Kurt, and I can talk together to do a digital dice. Kurt's come up with some manager cards, and actually friends with the creator on Facebook of Pine Tar Baseball, and Kurt is the spokesman. So we'll be talking Pine Tar Baseball on the next Ron Juckett show. Again, congratulations. 20 years is a hell of an accomplishment, and well-deserved. All right, guys, thank you so much. Like I said, baseball, football tomorrow. Nothing really planned for Monday. And week 5 coming up on the 86 Pro Football Replay this week on Retro Sports Network. I'm Ron Juckett. We'll talk to you twice tomorrow. Have yourself a very good night.